I do think it'll be sooner rather than later. I think this is 35% on a broad trade-weighted basis. It'd be the dollar against a large group of our trading partners in inflation-adjusted terms, and I think it will occur over the 2020 to 2021 period, so within the next year and a half. Secondly, I do not think, and I want to stress again, this will bring an end to the dollar's dominance as the world's reserve currency. But I think there's so much in the way of questionable performance of our leadership role in the world. But it certainly raises serious questions about whether or not we're deserving of that role in the future. And that's something that needs to be addressed in our upcoming presidential election and the administration that follows.
Stephen Roach may well be right. He predicted a 35% fall on a trade-weighted basis of the US dollar. Now, mind you, that has happened before. And it happened within the period when the Hong Kong dollar was still linked to the US dollar firmly. So if this happened again, and for as long as the US dollar continued to be the international currency or the preferred medium of transaction for international business, then we continue to be linked to the US dollar. That shouldn't present to us any serious problem. But if you're not talking about a 35% drop in the US dollar, you're talking about an even bigger adjustment, then it would be problematic, because there may come a point where you would ask the question as to whether or not, we're linked to a big ship, all right? And if the ship is sinking, big ship is sinking, do you really still want to be tied to it? But we're not. Now I have to repeat again and again, we are not talking about that sort of a scenario.
Okay.
I don't think that sort of a scenario will happen.
There's a lot of strong political anti-China winds blowing in the world, but I'm hopeful that strong winds that are blowing right now against China will subside, and like I said earlier, I don't think they're going to stop blowing even if there's a change in U.S. administration, but I'm hopeful they would be less severe. The last thing China needs to do at this point is to alter its course and move away from the reforms in terms of stimulating internal private consumption, its services sector, focusing on indigenous innovation, new waves of urbanization, including the Greater Bay Area. All of that was on the books and needs to continue.
If I were sitting in Beijing and looking at the weaponization of finance by the United States, I would want to be less dependent on the US dollar. Okay? And that obviously leads to the argument for further internationalizing the renminbi. Now, as an offshore financial center doing just that, we have to push along by introducing the renminbi into the capital markets in Hong Kong, making use of it, for example, in stock market trading. It is possible, okay? The last point is, of course, GBA finance. Let's focus on that. There is an international dimension as well, because other people wanting to benefit from the economic development of the Greater Bay Area would need to come to Hong Kong, and that would help our status as an international financial center.
I'm hopeful that the situation will be more stable and that Hong Kong's long-term role as a major international center will not be as adversely impacted as some in the West fear. U.S. politicians are taking advantage of what I showed you earlier and was too brief on it in the Corona Big Book, and that is to blame China for everything. And so, in a period where the Trump administration is in serious trouble, not just for COVID, but for other issues. We haven't even talked about the racial unrest in the United States. The Hong Kong issue will get highlighted even more by partisan U.S. politics. And that's unfortunate, but that's the reality of our highly polarized political climate in the United States.
Given that there is already this executive order of the president, given that there is the Hong Kong Autonomy Act, and I have introduced some of the content of those two documents, they may target individuals, and they have targeted Chinese enterprises, companies. I don't think they would target government, because if they target government, then that's one of the nuclear option, because if they target the Hong Kong SAR government and say that all your or US dollar treasury holdings are frozen, then obviously that is a nuclear option.
Right.
That would mean that some of our functions cannot be performed.
But there would be a default on their part, isn't it? If they don't pay back
the
treasuries.
It's a two-edged sword.
Right.
And I hope that clever politicians like Trump and Pompeo will not go to that extent.